Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops Live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Jessica Mauderer. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Jill. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're grateful that you joined in, and I'd love the audience to know just a little bit about you as an intro. Jessica inspires and empowers people to live out their dreams. Helping them have time and financial freedom fuels her soul. She helps people transform their lives with solutions for weight loss, muscle building, energy, athletic performance and endurance, and healthy living. Her experience with public speaking, building presentations, mentoring, event planning, professional networking groups, non for profit board and staff, banking, social media, and leadership skills bring additional value to her business professionally and I can never say the word philanthropic. I can't say
Philanthropic. Yeah.
Say it.
Philanthropic.
Okay, it has the LL
Philanthropy.
on the why.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know how to say philanthropist, but that other one is a
It's a
tongue.
tongue twister.
It
Yeah.
really is. I'll just say philanthropist. So, Jessica, thank you so much, and it's good to know just a little bit about you. And on the Connection Show, what we love to do is we love connecting the dots of story to what that story, how that story prevailed and made you who you are today. So, if you wouldn't mind, take us on just a snapshot journey of your childhood growing up, what your family life was, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how that led you into who you are today, how that molded you into the beautiful woman you are today.
Well, thanks for asking. And it's so cool because I'm actually going to be attending a convention. It was actually just pivoted from in person to virtual just a few days ago, and it'll be coming up at the end of the month. And the theme of the convention is tell your story. So I love that you have people share their stories and, just the victim to victory. A lot of people can still live in that victim mindset and victim life. But I really do empower people to get to that victory stage. And so I grew up in Missouri, in a suburb of Kansas City, a small town. So I'm 6 foot tall. So I was the tallest girl in our class. I remember being in the class pictures for kindergarten. I was just as tall as like the tallest guys in the back. And so that's been a big part of my story too. And also, at some point I must have had some type of confidence thing come over me because my confidence, kids are like, they live in wonder. They have all these like dreaming type ideas and they want to be this and they want to be that. And somewhere in there, my confidence was crushed. I don't know where, how, or what, but I've done some counseling and things like that. And, I go back and it's actually kind of like it becomes emotional too now when you're saying this, because I go back to, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old now. And I look at, man, like kids are built with all of this and somewhere in there, someone or something squashes their confidence.
Well,
And so,
and you know what? Just to pause on that too, Jessica.
yeah.
One thing that I can bring to light for you is when you have children, because mine's 39 now. When you're going through their ages, it's very cathartic. How you said they're 3 and 5, 3 and 5.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what you'll notice happening, just so you are aware of, at each age they are, your emotional um, burdens will flash back to that age, and so that's when you'll all of a sudden have all this enlightenment come back to your 3-year-old, yourself when you were 5, and as they keep going through stages, memories will flash back. It's just so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I grew up in a household. My parents are married. They're still married. I had great grandparents that were great. They were the grandparents that would help take care of us when my parents were working. My dad was a business owner, so I grew up wanting to be an entrepreneur. He was a mechanic. I definitely don't want to be a mechanic. I don't know how to change a tire, but I know how to take my car to a mechanic. So anyway, so I feel like, I grew up in this small town, and I was listening to someone today, and they're like, no one ever like told me I was going to college. It was just what I wanted. And just, I didn't even think there of anything different. Like it was just the next step. Right. And I remember in high school applying for a college scholarship, and I applied for it like the last day. I'm the last minute person. Like I showed up to the Zoom last minute. You can attest to that. But for some reason, I don't know if it's as I'm growing in my faith, if it's like that, almost that anointment, something that happens, that it's just things just happen the way they're supposed to. And so I played sports. I played volleyball. That's still a big part of my life. I have a charity tournament every single year now in Kansas City that I help run and grow and fundraise for charities. And so it's been great and I still play. I was playing in Cabo just a few days ago in the pool. And so it's just a part of like what I do still. Like I enjoy traveling. That was not a part of my childhood. We would go to like the lake here close by. But that was also part of my journey too, is that's not something we had small family vacations, but we didn't have the big vacations where we traveled. My kids are now international travelers because of that. Cause I kind of like, we said that like victim to victor. I was like, man, I'm going to change my legacy and my family's forever life, becoming international travelers. Like they don't need to wait till they're in high school to travel the world. And so that's part of it too. And I feel like also like we're talking about children, and sometimes like they can be told to be quiet. They can be told, be quiet and all these things. And it starts to like, if you tell them a lot, they stop like sharing their feelings and sharing who they are. And I became very introverted. So then going into college, I was like, I can change that. Like these people don't know me, right? People that knew me in high school don't know me anymore. I'm going to a new school. I can be whoever I want to become. And so I started changing my story then, and just becoming someone different, who I really was, that I'd really been squashing all this time, and started stepping out. And it's interesting because I did some charity work, did a lot of awareness presentations and for sex trafficking, with a nonprofit. And so that got me to do speaking. I was not a speaker. I did not like speaking. I would like that person, like the introvert, like your fear of different things. Mine was public speaking. And so I actually just messaged a friend of mine today because she's my mentor, and she keeps having me speak on our team huddles, and we have these daily. And then she's given me, opportunity to speak on stage. And I'm like, Amy, thank you for encouraging me and helping me learn and grow, because it really is building that muscle for me. They always say when you work out, you don't start with 50 pounds, you start with 5 pounds, and you add 5 and 5, and you might go to 10 and then 10 and 20, and, just keep building on it. And so it's giving me those muscles that I'm building. And, with events kind of closing down for a long time, in-person events, and now they're starting to open back. It's interesting to see how that's building muscles for me too, because I did a lot of online business for the last 2 years, and it's been incredible to see how I've been able to like flex some of those muscles that in childhood, I've kind of suppressed. And so yeah, that's some of them. I mean, I know for me, dancing's one too. Like I somehow became a shy child, did not want to dance in front of people. Then my friend got me dancing the other night, and I'm like, okay, I think this is what I'm stepping into now, going into 2022. So it's really that time to just create where you want to go or who you want to become in 2022. So does that help you understand a little bit my childhood?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, what I'd like to transition, because it'll go into that and we'll come back to that story, is so when you mentioned that the fear of speaking and your mentors encouraging you to step out in faith, and so you are stepping out in faith in Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas, on February 11th through the 13th at Brenda Ring Woods event coming up called Becoming the Best You Can Be overcoming challenges in 2022. And it's going to be at the Sheridan. I'm going to show that right now. This is the flyer of the event that Jessica will be speaking at. And you can get tickets at comechangeyourlife.com to register and come and meet her in person. And then this is Jessica's bio and how to reach out to her with her website. And the link will be on the YouTube channel and also on my website as well to know how to reach out to her. So she's going to be speaking at this amazing live conference, but it's also going to be virtual. So if you live in another city and you can't make it to Kansas City, or you're even an international viewer, please go to the website and click on virtual and sign up today so that you can hear these 20 some amazing speakers. I think we're up to 22 speakers that will be sharing on becoming the best you can be. So it's just going to be just the most amazing event. The cool part is the dates. February 11th through the 13th is the day before Valentine's Day. So we encourage you to come with a loved one, if you have a loved one, and celebrate Valentine's Day together. If you're not in a significant relationship, utilize Valentine's Day to love yourself because you are so important. And then that Sunday of the event, if you want to stay on, we're having a Super Bowl party because it'll end on Super Bowl Sunday, the event. So if you want to stay on and join the speakers and hang out with us for the Super Bowl party, it should be a blast. So with that, I want to go back to Jessica since she's the speaker and ask you, Jessica, with your story that you just shared and your mentor helping you overcome fear of speaking, when you were asked by Brenda to speak at this event, what in your heart led you to want to be on this particular platform, becoming the best you can be?
Well, I feel like there's so many things out there you can do and be a part of. But I just love how Brenda, you know, is bringing this event to Kansas City. I'm inspired just by her daily. And we actually met on LinkedIn. And then I wanted to be a part of the event she was going to have last time. And so we got to know each other a little bit over the last few months. And when she said she was having her event, she asked me if I'd be a speaker. And I'm like, of course I would. I would love the opportunity. And it's so cool because, you know, we get to inspire people. And here in our hometown of Kansas City, I mean, there's so much growth and so much that we can help people with. And I'm definitely somebody that has a servant heart. I always, you know, I'm sometimes that person that forgets about the self-care and like putting my own oxygen mask on. And, you know, helping other people is what I love doing. You know, I get more excitement when I can help someone earn a trip versus me earning the trip. When I can help someone earn money versus me earning money. So I have that servant heart in helping people. And with this event, like, I feel like there's been some trials and tribulations and in my story that I can really help someone, help people. Even if it's just one person, there's that starfish story. It talks about just helping one. What if you just helped one? And that rippled. So I'm excited to be a part of this event. It's very unique, becoming the best you. I just feel like, you know, it's not about competition. It's not about like trying, for Brenda trying to become me. Right. That's not what it's about. It's not becoming Jill. It's Jill becoming Jill, the best Jill. It's Jessica becoming the best Jessica. It's Brenda becoming the best Brenda. If you're on here, it's you becoming the best you, not trying to be somebody else. Because everybody's in this world, but there's a reason why God created you. And I believe that each person has their own unique abilities and gifts that they can really bless this world. And, we all have a purpose and a calling in our lives. And so if we can become the best version of ourselves, then, that helps everyone, helps the world, like if I'm not showing up my best self, then that's not helping myself. It's not helping my family. It's not helping those that I serve outside of my household, in the world. So that's kind of why I am excited about this event and honored to be a part of it. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. On your bio, the one thing that stood out for me that we didn't touch base yet on is it says that you teach people step by step ways to accomplish their dreams and goals without giving up on who they are. And you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof and not let anything stand in your way. And you're also the author, Jessica, of a book called Love Life, Be Life, and Share Life. Can you share a little bit about that book that you authored?
Yes. It's a pretty cool story actually. I was on a vacation and was at the pool. I was just, creating conversation with this couple that was at the pool, and he happened to be a publisher. And so I just, talked with him for a little bit, built some relationship, and we connected over social media. And then just over time, just shared with him that I always had this dream of being an author. And he said, "Oh, really? Tell me about that." And so I shared with him some of my stories, some of the things I've overcome. I mean, from infertility and yo-yo dieting and, gaining 30, 50. I mean, the person I am today is not what I used to look like. Right. And so just overcoming challenges and different things, losing my job in 2016, right before Christmas. And, just all of those things, and just trying to figure out, how to navigate. And especially now with the pandemic, I actually was on the plane ride home and I was like, I need to write a new book, and it needs to be about how to survive a pandemic without losing it, right? Like how to overcome things and how to get through things, especially in a pandemic, let alone in just life in general, and, struggles and things like that. And so, I just feel like, there's lots of people out there who need those tips, need that help. Sometimes people just get so overwhelmed and don't know where to start, don't know how to start. So I do this activity where I talk about what is the one specific action you could take right now toward whatever it is you want. So if you want to have vibrant health, what is the one specific action you can take today? So I woke up this morning, my back was hurting. I'm like, why is my back hurting? So I thought, today I need to get on that elliptical. I need to do some yoga, some stretching. I took one of our mobility flexibility products that has glucosamine in it that helps the joints, so that I could show up in my best self today. So I'm not in pain. And so that's, yeah, if that helps you understand.
Yeah.
I forgot what, yeah.
No, that's what led you to write the book, and that was great
Yeah.
that you met it was a God thing that you met the publisher, and
Oh
then
yeah,
and
it
then it
was.
started.
And
Yeah.
and it's even a crazier story because actually the publisher went out of business. There were some legal things that happened, incarcerations and different
Oh my
crazy
goodness.
things. Like if I could write another story and book, right?
So
Um,
did you find another publisher when your book was ready?
so interestingly enough, I literally sent, this is a God thing too. So I was listening to I was reading this Bible study thing and going through this Bible study with a group that was called Dream Releasers. And it talked about your dreams going to die in the grave and how people have all these dreams and goals. And he's like writing a book. And I'm like, that's me. And so I literally 2 days before, I'm telling you, this is something about me, right? 2 days before, I had the sense of urgency to send off the book 2 days before I had birthed my daughter. And so I send, and I was like, okay, it's gone, it's sent. And I never heard back. And I'm like, I've never had a published book. I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know like how long this takes. And so I kind of was going through some imposter syndrome stuff. I was like, maybe it's not supposed to happen, all these things. Right. And so I was listening to this Bible study that was called Dream Releasers. And so when he said, maybe you've been wanting to write a book, but you haven't done it, or you haven't, finished doing all the things you need to do. And I was like, okay. So I emailed the publisher and he responds in 2 seconds. And so he's like, let's get this moving forward. Then I had a retreat and I wanted to have the book in person for those people coming to the retreat. It was actually in Branson, crazy enough. I love Branson. And so I was like, okay, I need to have this book in hand for these people that are coming to the retreat. And so I messaged him and said, hey, how can I get copies of this before I go to this retreat? And they show up on my doorstep in this huge box. It was kind of that moment where we're like, oh my gosh, what I've been praying for, hoping to happen. The reality is here, right? It's happened. And so I got the books. And then a few months later, we were talking about the marketing plan for the book. A few months later, come right before Christmas again. And the marketing guy with the publisher is like, hey, what's your address? And I'm thinking he's just like gonna like send me something. Who knows what he's sending me? He sends me all the books that were still there that they had extra of that we never, like we're just sitting in the publisher's office. And he goes, these are all yours as our gift because the publisher's going out of business. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So those books, I have to sell, to use, and then
Did you ever have to pay them then or anything, or did they pay you?
so interesting. It's so interesting. So I actually did not pay anything to get my book published. It was a total God thing. And then to get the books, I just paid the author's, like rate or whatever to get the books. And then I got a lot of them for free.
Wow.
And then, looking at Amazon, they're on Amazon. So I'm actually working on right now on the plane ride home just from Cabo the other day. I was like, I need to get this book, like a second version or something like that. So the ISBN number can be associated with me, not the publisher, because clearly the publisher's out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get all that formulated and get all those things taken care of. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so, yeah, I'm working on, revising, adding things to that, just need to update. I mean, I worked with a nonprofit. That nonprofit's now gone out of business. And so, not out of business, but they closed it because of the pandemic. And I'm actually working with a new nonprofit. And so a lot of things have changed since that book was published in 2016. So
Wow.
I'm working on getting that updated. And I want to add a few things to it. My faith journey since 2016 has completely changed. I mean, it's been amazing to see the growth in that for me. I did not grow up going to church. I was someone who would maybe go with a friend if I stayed the night at their house in middle school, elementary school, things like that. Probably middle school, high school, because I probably didn't stay at friends' houses in elementary school. But then going into my adulthood was not on my radar, was not on my focus. And then with dealing with infertility, that was like the moment and turning point in my life where I was finally like, we've got to surrender this. And I want my children growing up, going to church and having that background in their life. So yeah, that's kind of where that started. And so there's a whole journey there that I want to share with people.
Yeah, and God will bring you to that next step. That next step.
Yes.
And in closing here too, Jessica, I just want to share one thing with you. I don't know if you've watched any of the Chosen series, but it was really amazing because when the Holy Spirit told me in January of last year that my tagline for my podcast was supposed to change from Renew, Restore, Reconnecting Community to Hope, Health, and Healing in the World, moving from victim to victory, when I felt the Lord saying that was my new tagline last year. And through that, he said what I really, and I just felt a whole vision from the Lord telling me to have people share, connecting the dots of their story to who they become today, so that as the audience hears your story, they'll look for the similarities in your story, not the differences, to bring transformation and healing into their life. And so I share that with you because when I watched, and so that epiphany from God was really like crystal clear for me.
Mm.
And so all of a sudden I'm watching The Chosen, and almost word for word from what God had said to me was in the movie The Chosen, when Matthew was scribing in parables for Jesus. And Matthew says, I just don't understand these, Jesus. Like, why do you say these things? And he says, because through story, Matthew, in parables, in accounts, people's lives will transform. And I was like, wow, Holy Spirit, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like connecting the dots so that people's lives will transform through story. And,
Amen.
and so your story, he'll keep continuing that story for a purpose. And I know that you have that purpose in you. So we look forward, Jessica, to seeing you in Overland Park, Kansas, and guests on the show. Please come and join us, because I know Jessica has more to share with you that she didn't share today. So sign up today. And Jessica, we look forward to seeing you just in a few weeks.
Yes, Jill, you too. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, thank you so much for
Bye.
joining us, everyone. Have a wonderful day. The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Maude Miller. Welcome to the show, Maude.
Hi, Jill. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a privilege to get to know you, and I'd love the audience to know just a little bit about you, Maude. So, Maude's a veteran, an ex wife, an angel mom, and someone who believes your job does not define you. Maude will be passing along her thoughts and experiences with childhood cancer and child loss. She speaks about how watching a child go through cancer changed her outlook on life. It has made Maude view life through the eyes of a child and tries to live that way. She'll also tell you how 5 minutes can change your outlook in life. So, Maude, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's great to actually see you virtually. We've talked a few times. It's great.
Yes. Well, on the Connection Show, Maude, we love to connect the dots of people's lives and then take those dots and bring them forward to who you've become today. So, because we know that you're going to be in Overland Park, Kansas in February, today I thought we'd just take a snapshot so that we don't tell everybody everything so they'll come and listen and hear your full story. But if you can just take us back to your childhood in a snapshot and bring us a little bit into some of your story today and where you're at today.
Well, as a kid, I grew up in Missouri. I lived in Hannibal, Missouri until I was 16 when my parents got divorced. And then I joined the military after I graduated from high school. Went into the military and went to Hawaii and spent time in Hawaii, where I met my husband, and we had our little girl. She was born in February of 1999. And then from there, she was happy, healthy, cute little girl, redheaded, sweet. And she was diagnosed with cancer when she was 5. So I went through the journey with cancer with her, and she passed away in 2006. So it's been now 16 years since she passed away.
How old was she then?
7 when she passed away. So she was still young. She was amazing. She always wanted to play. She always wanted to learn new things, be involved. She was a tomboy and a prissy little girl. She had both sides. It was amazing to watch. Kids are such great role models. I aspire to be one.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, she changed the way that I view the world. Most people look at the world from where they are instead of changing their perspective. And that's what I speak about. I speak about how you can change who you are just by changing your perspective, looking at things differently, and looking at things in a way that you can take those thoughts forward to move forward, move yourself forward, change your perspective on life. And you can do it 5 minutes at a time. It's great.
So did the stresses of the cancer in your little girl add to the stresses in your marriage then that ended the marriage, do you feel?
Yeah. It was one of those things that my ex, he was still in the military when she was diagnosed. So because it was him trying to struggle with actually working in the military, I was the one who was taking care of my daughter. I was the one who was there with her 24 hours a day. I was the one who was doing the research and taking care of her. I was in the hospital if she was in the hospital, because I promised her that I would never leave her. I would never leave her at the hospital. I would be there for her. I would be there to be the one who explained to her exactly what was happening and how things were going to happen, and make sure that I was there if she had to go to sleep for a procedure, that I was there when she woke up. It's important for kids to know and have that anchor. So I was that anchor for her.
So did you resign from the military at that point so you could be a full-time caregiver?
I actually was in the military until she was born.
Okay.
My ex-husband and I were both in the military, and we were supposed to deploy at the same time. So I would have missed out on formative years, young years, when she was little. So I got out of the military not long after she was born. So I got out in 99, September of 99. She was only 7 months old at the time.
Yeah.
So got out when she was young.
So take us then on the journey then after your, what was your little girl's name?
Her name was Alyssa.
Alyssa. So after Alyssa passed, and I see your butterfly behind you, I'm sure the butterfly has a lot to do with her life.
Yes. That particular one was actually painted by the kids that she went to school with. It's hand painted on silk. It's a kite that can actually be flown. It's never actually been flown, but it hung in her room when we were living in Hawaii. It is my remembrance that I could actually go and come out of my own cocoon and change. I can go and change anything that life throws at me. But the other part of that is that when we talked about her friends that passed away, she sat there and she said, well, Mommy, I want to come back as a butterfly. So because she wanted to come back as a butterfly, the butterfly is a symbol of her as well. Butterflies are everywhere. They are seen everywhere in my life. There are dozens all over my house. In this room alone, there are multiple. I have several actually tattooed on my body. I have her butterfly tattooed on my ankle. So she walks with me everywhere I go. And then on the inside of the other leg, so that we walk together, her dad and I are symbolized there, because we'll always walk together with her regardless of where we are. So butterflies are a big part of that, but this one is definitely a reminder of you can fly if you choose to. Yeah. It's a matter of finding that hope and that ability to go and do and be.
Well, and you can find beauty in the midst of pain and struggles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So take us on the journey of your life then after her passing, and what's developed in your life since then.
Well, my ex-husband and I were married for 10 years after she passed away. I started actually working in different nonprofits, trying to bring awareness to childhood cancer and let people know that it isn't rare. There are so many children that are affected by childhood cancer, and it's not known because it's not something that you talk about. It's something that's taboo. So is child loss. Most people who lose children don't speak about it. They don't carry on a conversation. They don't tell you what that path feels like or how you actually go and approach that sector of your being.
Because and don't you feel, and maybe I'm wrong, Wad, so I'd love to hear your opinion. Don't you think it is more, it's maybe not more so, but as a condition, because most people won't engage and say, tell me about your daughter, or tell me about what you went through. They don't want to hear it, or they're afraid. They're afraid if they bring it up, it's going to bring you pain. So they ignore talking about it, when probably what's needed most is for people to talk to you and let you share about your little girl.
It absolutely is. Most people are afraid to actually ask questions. They don't want to offend. They don't want to bring it up because they're afraid of bringing that reality to them. Because most people believe that if you actually bring something like that up and you're asking questions and educating yourself, that you're going to bring that upon yourself. But my belief with that is that if you go and you educate yourself, at least you know the signs of what you're actually looking for.
Well, and I think too, I mean, again, I hear you say they're afraid to educate themselves. But again, I still feel like that we live in a society that is afraid to talk about pain with another person because they feel like it's going to open up a wound. When in reality, if you give the person permission to say, Maud, I'd love to hear more about Alyssa. Would you mind sharing? And then you could say, you know what? It's just too hard for me. I'd prefer not. Or, oh, I'd love to. But I think most people are so, like, they walk on eggshells around pain and loss that they don't even engage because they feel like they're going to bring trauma to the person. Where
Oh,
in
yeah.
reality, if we'd only give people permission to say, no, I don't want to talk about it, or yes, I'd love to, what a difference the world would be, right?
Well, it's a matter of asking somebody. I mean, if you're afraid to actually ask somebody that question, yeah, I can understand. Well, yeah, it's both. I think they're afraid of what they're going to feel when they ask those questions. They're also afraid of what they might actually get or cause upon the other person.
Hmm.
And I've been talking about Alyssa for so many years that it doesn't really faze me. I miss her. You will see tears just because it's a part of what it is. And I'm not afraid to cry in front of people. A lot of people are afraid to do that. So I think that that's the other part of it. If I start crying, are you going to start crying too? I think that's another part of it because there's that stigma that's still around crying in front of other people and showing that huge emotion and being that vulnerable in front of somebody else. But like I said, I mean, I've done it for years. I've talked about her. I love talking about my daughter. Most parents who have lost their children do love talking about their kids because it brings them from something that happened in the past. It brings all those wonderful, amazing memories to the forefront. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, Alyssa was not her cancer journey. That baby was life personified. She was someone who wanted to live. She lived for the moment that she could go play. I mean,
Well,
she asked.
I want to see her picture. Do you have it nearby to show, or do you have one close?
I don't know if you can actually see it. It's actually in a frame. This is my baby.
Ah, the little angel. And what type of cancer did Alyssa have?
She was diagnosed with bilateral Wilms tumor with a tumor thrombus in her heart. So in layman's terms, it actually means that she had both of her kidneys infected with cancer, and it actually went into the right atrium of her heart. So every time that her heart beat, it actually had a double thud. So you'd actually hear this instead of hearing a normal heartbeat.
And was she born that way, or did it develop later?
It developed from what they actually said with regards to her treatment and all that kind of stuff. They said it probably started forming around her 4th birthday. She was rare. Her cancer actually was rare. It's Wilms tumor itself is 97% curable.
What's it called?
Wilms tumor.
Wilms.
WILMS.
And what kind of symptoms did she have that made you realize she needed to go see a doctor? How did you find it? Because most times you don't even know a kid's sick.
She was full of life and crazy, but on her birthday, actually a couple of days before her birthday, she started peeing blood, like the color of Kool-Aid. Very
Okay.
colored Kool-Aid. And she came in and she was like, Mama, I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't put food coloring in the toilet. And she came running out and told me. And I was like, okay, well, let's go look. Show me what happened. And I saw that and I was like, oh God, urinary tract infection. That was exactly what I was thinking. So I was like, okay, well, I said, let's call the doctor. We'll take you in. We'll go and find out. We went into the emergency room 3 times before we actually found out.
Wow. 3 times?
Mhm.
Ugh.
They
Just-
actually accused me of child abuse because they kept saying that there's no reason why she should have been peeing blood like that if there was no infection. So I was accused of child abuse.
because the markers for UTC came back negative, right?
Yes. Everything came back negative for it. And there was no description or reason why, because the second time that I took her back, she was actually peeing blood clots. So
And then they still didn't do anything.
They ran a bunch of tests. They did several x-rays during that one. They did a CT scan, which came back, and they sat there and they said they couldn't figure out what was going on. The third time back in the ER, because I basically threw a temper tantrum, which is probably not a great way to put it, but I
would have by the second one, or maybe the first.
Well, because I brought her back in and she was actually throwing up stomach acids. So that was the third trip back. And then when the doctor actually walked in and told me about her diagnosis, he walked in, he looked at me and he said, well, we have good news. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. Thinking great news. And he looks at me and he says, your daughter has cancer, and then left. I knocked over a crash cart that was behind me. And my baby is sitting there in the bed looking at me going, Mom, are you okay? So, and then about 15 minutes later, felt like an eternity, the pediatric oncology unit came in and actually started talking to me, telling me what was going on with her.
Where was this at? In Hawaii?
It was in Hawaii. It was actually at the Veterans, it was actually at Tripler Army Medical Center. But it's just an experience. People don't expect cancer in a kid. So they're not looking for it. They're looking for typical things.
Yeah.
And after going through all the things that I went through, I found out that was something that was completely lacking in emergency medicine. They are not educated.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think everything's lacking in emergency medicine. That's just my opinion. I think emergency medicine is all about you having a heart attack, a gunshot wound, a stabbing, something like that. Emergency techs are great about. Or if maybe you come in and they might do a CT and see you got, like for me, I had a pulmonary embolism and they caught it immediately. But digging into a disease, forget it. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources, they don't have the know-how. And what they should be doing, but they don't, is when they run tests and they still don't know what it is, what they need to be doing is admitting the patient with specialists coming in and saying, let's do a more thorough full workup with specialists. Because the emergency room doctors aren't specialists. They just can do triage. They're triage. That's what they are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they kept telling me, oh, we'll come back. And I'm like, to the emergency room? Why can't you make an appointment for her to be seen by a pediatrician? I don't understand. Can't you push along, and make it an emergent circumstance to see a pediatrician instead of me coming back to the ER? So, it was kind of one of those things that lacked. It's also something that I changed. So I became an advocate for making sure that children who came into the hospital, even though it was a military facility, that those children were actually seen and taken care of by someone who specializes in children.
Well, and I think we're for children and adults, I think you need to learn how to be your own medical advocate for yourself. You have to be. And by that I mean, if you're in a circumstance like you were, Maude, and they're getting ready to release you, you insist, say, I want my child admitted. You admit my child immediately so that my child could be seen by specialists until they find out what is causing this disease in her body. You just, not you, but we can't just allow them to send us home and say, go, get released now. And they're sick.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have a whole nother realm about that. And I know you've just had recent loss because of COVID now. And people sending people home and not getting the treatment that they deserve and not getting the right protocol is.
Well, and the crazy thing about that was the opposite. They overtreated. Instead of telling her, hey, you know what? You are better off actually going home and getting exercise and being outside in the sun and that kind of stuff. They admitted her. So, that.
Well, again, it's bad. It's either it's money or it's neglect. It's one or the other. It's really not patient care anymore. I don't feel.
No, it's not. And I became her advocate on multiple occasions. I was the reason why most of her treatments happened. I was the reason why they had experimental treatments that they were actually working on. But like I said, her cancer was rare. 97% at the base with a single kidney involved. Soon as it goes to double, it was 50%.
So if the ER would have caught it immediately, do you feel like there could have been a way for her to live, or no? Was it terminal no matter what?
Well, she lived for 2 years. She actually went into remission, and children that were in her state, we were told initially there were 5 additional children or 5 children before her that came that didn't survive. They didn't survive their first set of treatments. So just for her to make it into remission, we overcame something that was not expected to happen.
Mm.
Because it dropped to 0 as soon as it got to where she was with the tumor thrombus that actually went into her heart. Her survival rate dropped to 0. When she made it through that first set of treatment, she survived the odds. She actually was given kind of a second chance, something that most other children that were in her situation didn't have that. Mm-hmm. So I felt fortunate because I had more time with her.
Yeah.
I mean, I had talked to other parents that were in the same situation that had the exact same diagnosis. I talked to the parents that had actually lost their children prior to Alyssa. Mm-hmm. And I asked what they did with their medical records and all that kind of stuff. I found out they didn't do anything. They let their medical records basically just sit in a vault and didn't do anything with them. So I was like, okay, fine. So I took all of her medical records. I submitted them to the NIH. I submitted them to the Childhood Cancer Organization. I submitted them to childhood cancer research firms to make sure that her research, everything that she went through, everything that I forced on doctors making a decision about, that those things became something that helped another child. Mm-hmm. She's helped 21 children now. Wow. It's probably more than that actually now, but at the time that I actually got the number, there were additional 6 or 7 kids that were actually diagnosed. So now there are probably plenty more children that have actually survived because of her and the treatments and the things that she went through. So yes, I lost her, but I saved other kids. I gave them an opportunity through the loss that I went through. I was able to give parents an opportunity to go and have time with their children that they wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah. Yeah. So your work, are you still doing that non-for-profit work and helping out, or do you have any other things that you're doing career-wise, or is this your predominant career path right now?
I'm an event planner. Most recently, I've actually done and designed a couple of websites. Anything creative. I'm actually pretty good with it. I've got a degree in graphic arts. I've also got a degree in communications. So I'm kind of all over the board. I love communicating with people, talking to people, carrying on conversations. I haven't done a whole lot with actually talking about Alyssa recently after a horrible experience with speaking in front of a group of people. So this is relatively new with doing this again. So just kind of all over the map, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
That's okay. Hey, we're on the journey together. Well, I'd love the audience to know that Maude is going to be coming to Overland Park, Kansas, to the Sheridan Convention Center on February 11th through the 13th. And she's going to be speaking and sharing her story about becoming the best you can be and overcoming challenges in 2022. So we'd love for you to support Maude as she shares her journey of becoming the best she has become and sharing it with you. And I'd love for you guys to see Maude's bio here. I have it up on the screen and how to get a hold of her. And then this also is the flyer for the event where you can go to the website called comechangeyourlife.com, and you can register now to attend the event either live or virtually. So it's going to be a hybrid event. And so if you can get to Kansas, the Kansas area for February 11th through 13th, it will be so amazing for you to meet these speakers that we'll have. If for some reason you can't travel and get there because maybe you live in a whole other country, It's going to be only $49 for the entire weekend to hear transformational stories to help you become the best you can be. So, in closing, Maud, can you share with us when you heard about this event that Brenda Ringwood is doing, and she invited you to be one of the speakers, what made you say yes?
Her persistence. Actually, I found out in November when I spoke how many people actually their stories actually coincided with mine. I found out what they were and who they were, and I was able to connect with people who have lost their children or people who have not been able to go and move on from loss. It's a difficult journey, and most people don't succeed. So I wish he would be quiet. I don't know what he's barking at.
That's okay. So when you realized that and she asked you, that was what led you to want to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. It was kind of something that I mean, if other people can be helped by the words that come out of my mouth, I would, and then I've done my job. I've done something to help someone else actually succeed and become better and do better and be able to strive for something that they weren't expecting to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, reaching out to people who have actually lost their children, I know from experience how hard it is to get over that or to move forward, because you never really get over it. So, I mean, helping people to actually experience something that is more joyful, something that, taking the experiences that they had with their kids and taking those and moving them forward and actually bringing them into something where they remember their kids when they go redo them, or they take and they actually change their viewpoint and actually look at the way that their child saw the world, and would be seeing the world through their eyes now, no matter how old they would be. I mean, Alyssa would be 20, coming up 23, which is really hard to believe. But I mean, knowing that, changing my perspective on how things look and the view of the world and that kind of stuff, that's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that everybody needs to realize.
Mm-hmm.
If you change your life and you change the way that you view anything and everything, it's an amazing way to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing way to change your life. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about you. And for all of you listening, please go and get a ticket today and join us either in person in Overland Park, Kansas, or virtually online for the hybrid event. Thanks again, Maud. It's a privilege to get to know you a little bit better.
all right. Thank you, Jill.
Bye now.